About 20% of the U.S. beef capacity has been wiped out following a cyber attack at JBS, one of the largest meat processing companies on the planet. It's also affected Canada and Australia, and the report from Bloomberg says it is going to get worse. I hate to say I told you so, but if you watched my segment about the Colonial pipeline hack, we learned that within only a few hours of the hack, the company paid the ransom, which means the hackers are going to keep doing it. They're not going to stop. Now, the organization that produced the malware said we had no intention of affecting society and we'll moderate our clients better in the future. But here we go. U.S. infrastructure is under attack. Of course, the White House is saying that they're going to be contacting Russia or looking into what Russia's involvement may be. But man, are we in trouble? Man, are we in trouble? There's already chicken shortages across the country. I reported this a few weeks ago. It wasn't hitting mainstream national news. Yet when you look to local outlets, they were reporting on massive food cost increases and a chicken shortage. And I thought to myself, how is it that in Omaha and Columbus, Ohio, you have local reports saying restaurants are hit by a chicken shortage? But where's the New York Times? Where's WAPA? Where's the national news coverage? Now it's here. Local outlets are now saying it is a national shortage. Gas prices are on the rise. There's a shortage of cars. There's a shortage of computer chips, of chlorine. The shortages are getting worse. And I warned you about this too. Remember what I said? Out where I'm at, the local farms were struggling to sell beef due to U.S. regulation. Now it's a cyber attack. I hope you all are paying attention to this. I feel like the people who are watching my videos and sharing them have been better prepared for what's happening. Now, maybe you don't need those emergency food supply things that that sponsor my channel periodically. Maybe you don't need them, but I think many people might be glad they have them because I think the food shortages are going to get worse. I mean, the media has been saying eat bugs endlessly. Cicadas are everywhere. I'm all right. I'm not going to eat them. You know why? Well, I got some supplies. I wouldn't say I went overboard in prepping, but I've been buying more and more as of late. Why? Because the dollar is collapsing. And don't take my word for it. A famous economist said this earlier this year, that by the end of the year, it's going to get bad. And we're hearing about the housing market. People in big cities are buying properties sight unseen. They're calling up and saying, I'll just buy it. Why? They don't want to be holding US dollars. One house sold for $1 million over asking. People are starting to freak out from this stuff. And I'll tell you what worries me. Sure, there's a lot of stories about the housing market going insane and gas prices skyrocketing and cyber attacks. But it's the escalation in the attacks on our infrastructure. Now, the cyber attacks themselves are news and scary. But it's like I said after the Colonial pipeline hack. They're going to do it again. Our infrastructure is being crippled. It's going to get worse. And a lot of people probably didn't care. And many of you watching probably took it seriously. So what do you think happens next? This is a global cyber attack. Now, they went after the U.S. headquarters, and that's bad. But I think it's going to get worse. Now, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is an option. There is optimism. Cryptocurrency. Don't take any advice from me on what you should buy or where you should buy it. I don't give financial advice. But I can tell you that many more businesses are going to be accepting crypto, and that may be, in my opinion, at least for me, a safe haven for my money, and I'm looking into crypto. I got to take it very seriously. We don't give financial advice. I don't know. I can't predict the future. I was certainly right about this. Hey, leftists, take that one and run with it on Twitter. Why don't you? Let me read this news for you, and we're going to go over what's going on. And you should share this. Let me do the normal pitch. Go to timcast.com, sign up, become a member, and you get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, some full episodes. And being a member helps support the operations here at Timcast Media. We're expanding. We got a lot of work happening. New people are coming on. We've got events planned. And that's why we need your support. In the event I get suspended or banned, I needed a place where I can continue to produce work and a way to keep doing it. And that's your membership. But don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. But seriously, share this video, please. For two reasons. One, do it for me. I don't got the marketing budget of CNN. If you like my work, if you think my work is valuable and important, well, then sharing it is one thing you can do to help get the word out. But also, if you think people should know this about the cyber attack, about the shortages, about the dollar getting hit, if you think people need to know what's going to happen and they should get ready for it, sharing is one thing you can do to help those people. And, obviously it does help me, and I'm greatly, eternally grateful for your support in sharing this content. Here we go, baby. Let's read this news. Bloomberg says 1/5 of U.S. beef capacity wiped out by JBS cyber attack. They say a cyber attack on JBS SA, the largest meat producer globally, has forced the shutdown of some of the world's largest slaughterhouses, and there are signs that the closures are spreading. JBS, 5 biggest plants in the U.S., which altogether handle 22,500 cattle per day, have halted processing following a weekend attack on the company's computer networks, according to JBS posts on Facebook, labor unions, and employees. Those outages alone have wiped out nearly 1/5 of America's production. Slaughter operations across Australia were also down, according to a trade group. One of Canada's largest beef plants was idled for a second day. It's unclear exactly how many plants globally have been affected by the attack, as JBS has yet to release details that granular. The prospect of more extensive shutdowns around the world is already upending agricultural markets and raising concerns about food security, as hackers increasingly target critical infrastructure. In the U.S., JBS accounts for about 1/4 of all U.S. beef capacity and roughly 1/5 of all pork capacity. Livestock futures slumped while pork prices rose. Man, first our oil pipeline gets shut down, prices go up. Then our meat production. Wow. The climate change activists must be celebrating right now. I mean, if they had their way, they'd shut it all down overnight. But at least this way, the hackers who are attacking us, I guess, are giving them an ideological victory. JBS suspended its North American and Australian computer systems after an organized assault on Sunday on some of its servers. The Brazilian meat giant said Monday in an emailed statement. Without commenting on operations at its plants, JBS said the incident may delay certain transactions with customers and suppliers. Quote, retailers and beef processors are coming from a long weekend and need to catch up with orders, Steiner Consulting Group said in its daily livestock report. If they suddenly get a call saying that product may not deliver tomorrow or this week, it will create very significant challenges in keeping plants in operation and the retail case stocked up. The White House has offered assistance to JBS after the company notified the Biden administration on Sunday of a cyber attack from a criminal organization likely based in Russia. White House Deputy Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters Tuesday Biden has directed the administration to do whatever they can to mitigate the impact on meat supply. Any substantial disruption in meat processing would further stoke mounting political concerns about the concentration of the meat industry and complaints of the 4 giant companies that control more than 80% of U.S. beef processing unfairly leverage their power over farmers and consumers. I'm going to pause. I want to show you something that worries me. Critical infrastructure is under attack. They say it's Russia. I don't know. But this is the second time now in only a few weeks. Allow me to show you Tim Pool's Instagram. That's right, my Instagram, over at Instagram.com/TimCatch. You can follow me there. I posted this photo. I went to a barbecue joint not too far from me, and they had a sign. They weren't selling beef. No beef. It's a barbecue joint. No beef. They had pork and chicken, though. Good stuff, by the way. Here's what they posted. The sign said, due to the huge price increase on beef this week, stemming from the gas shortage, we will not be serving brisket until it levels off. The supplies have doubled our price per pound. I don't feel comfortable charging the amount needed to just break even. Sorry, Gary. Now, that was crazy. There was a shortage of meat and a shortage of gas. They couldn't buy what they needed to buy. It was too expensive. The meat prices doubled, and they couldn't get the gas to transport it, which is causing that price to go up. But remember this, when Colonial Pipeline got hit, what did the DHS say? There is no gas shortage. But there was. We can't trust the media. Maybe for legitimate reasons. I don't know for sure. Maybe for bad reasons. Maybe there's some kind of conflict we don't know about. Maybe this is cyber war. Now, they're not going to come out and tell us, hey, just so you know, there's massive cyber war going on. They're trying to destroy our critical infrastructure. It would just kind of be like this. They report what they have to report when they have to report it. So maybe something more serious is going on, or maybe Biden is just weak and we're being taken advantage of and attacked because who fears Joe Biden? Here's more. They say cattle producers were already seething over a surge in retail prices for hamburger and steaks, while the price processors pay for livestock barely budge. Congress has been examining legislation to address cattle markets, and rural lawmakers recently pressed the Justice Department for action on an antitrust investigation of the beef industry launched this year. JBS is the number one beef producer in the U.S., accounting for 23% of the nation's max capacity, compared to Tyson's, which is 22%. JBS closed beef processing facilities in Utah, Texas, Wisconsin, and Nebraska, and canceled shifts at plants in Iowa and Colorado on Tuesday, according to union officials and employees. Union Facebook posts also said some kill and fabrication shifts in the U.S. have also been canceled. Pork and chicken facilities across the nation, including one in Minnesota, were also closed by the owner of Pilgrim's Pride Court, the second biggest U.S. chicken producer, according to union officials and employees. At least 5 of the 6 U.S. pork facilities were cutting back on operations Tuesday, according to Facebook posts from the plants. Quote, there are at least 10 plants I have knowledge of that have had operations suspended because of the cyber attack, said Paula Schelling-Soldner, acting chairperson for the National Council of Locals representing food inspectors for the American Federation of Government Employees. She declined to identify the locations of the operations. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's midday reports for beef and pork didn't disclose prices due to packer submission issues. However, the CME Group's pork futures contract jumped by more than 3.5%. They go on to say, Chicago cattle futures slumped as much as 3.4%, the lowest level since January 12th, before trimming losses. The potential slaughterhouse closures at JBS plants exacerbated an existing supply glut with too many cattle than the capacity to process them. They're going to mention JBS USA's beef and pork units and Pilgrim's Pride had a net revenue of about $40 billion in 2020. Hackers now have the commodities industry in their crosshairs, with JBS attack coming 3 weeks after Colonial Pipeline Co., operator of the biggest U.S. gas pipeline. So now the biggest gas pipeline, the biggest meat producer, my friends, I hope you are paying attention. We are being attacked. Maybe it's pirates, future pirates of the internet that are attacking our critical infrastructure for ransom, and it's working. But we're being extracted. Our supplies are running low. Shortages have already hit. This to me is incredibly scary. Now, they say backup servers are fine. They said the same thing about Colonial. It may still take time to get things back on track. You combine this with the economy already under stress. I don't know. Maybe that economist was right when he said the dollar is going to collapse by the end of this year. It's not my opinion. Bloomberg.com, Stephen Roach. The dollar's crash is only just beginning. America's net domestic savings rate has fallen by the most on record, making the economy even more reliant on foreign money. And they suggest, this man, Stephen Roach, by the end of the year, it's going to get bad. I certainly think it is. What have I been doing? Personally, I've been buying crypto. I know the price tanked and a lot of people who are new to crypto panicked. I'm not. I've been tracking crypto for a long time. And it's not the only thing I'm buying, but it's certainly something I am buying. Now, you do you. Don't take advice from me. Check this out. From KQ2.com. Nationwide chicken shortage affects local eateries. May 29th. Remember when I said, if you look at the local outlets, they're reporting chicken shortages, but at the national level, they're not doing it? Where's the story? Maybe it's there. Maybe nobody cares. Maybe they're too worried about Joe Biden fumbling and bumbling to realize what's happening around them. The economy is hit. It's bad. And it may get worse. I got a bunch of stories for you, though. Here's a story from May 27th. KETV, ABC7, Omaha. Meat shortage causes restaurants to run out of product, raise menu prices. I feel like I'm the only one reporting this. I feel like I'm the only one with a national platform, and international to a certain degree, who's talking about the economy and what's happening to our food. I look at a lot of political channels, and they're talking about Biden, they're talking about culture war stuff. Maybe that's the bread and circus. Maybe that's the bread and circus. You know what that is? Back in in ancient Rome, the Colosseum, when things were getting bad, when there was no food, when there was political crisis, make people fight in the Colosseum, throw them some bread. Hey, bread and circuses, keep them distracted. Right now, people are distracted. They're not talking about this for the most part. Like I said, local outlets are. Where's the mainstream media? Now, these pipeline hacks, this pipeline hack and the food shortage, the pipeline hack and the hack on the food plant. This is major news. This is, depending on who did it, it's an act of war. These smaller stories from local outlets seem to be getting ignored. Look at this story. The meat shortage, only 114 shares. Send this video to people you know and care about. I'm not saying the world's going to end. I don't know. I think the dollar's in trouble, though. You look at what's happening with these houses, man. This is freaky stuff. But I want to go slow, and I'm going to go through the stories that I got. It's not just food. It's a trucker shortage. The New York Post reports how the trucker shortage is fueling the meat crisis. It's not just that it's hard to get food. It's that people aren't driving either. The Wall Street Journal reported this. I covered it the other day. Many families are flush with cash. They don't need to work. And if they don't need to work, why would they take a job driving trucks? And if no one drives the trucks, there's no food, and then people can't buy anything. You know, that means the dollar is going to collapse because people aren't working, people aren't producing, and people can't buy anything anyway. So the dollar is in serious trouble. CNN reports, energy costs are stoking inflation. Just look at U.S. gas prices. Yeah. So there's a meat shortage, a cyber attack. That means you likely, at a certain point, will see a massive disruption in the meat supply. It also means that the existing meat will probably go up in value as people start fighting over it. And the cost to get it is going to be increasing with no truckers, with high costs of gas. I think, what are they saying? Gas is averaging nationwide over $3. In California, over $6. You ready for this? Check out this story from the Washington Post. $1 million over asking. D.C. bidding wars escalate as U.S. housing crunch intensifies. $1 million over asking. Now, the house was already extremely valuable. Is it $3.5 million going up for $4.5? Rich people are not hesitating to get off the dollar. They're buying Bitcoin like crazy. They're buying property like crazy. You know why? Joe Biden says he ain't going to tax people who make more than $400K, but he is going to print money into oblivion, setting debt records going back since not seen since World War II. That is an invisible tax on everyone. The rich people, they know this. They follow the news. They follow economics, and they say, okay, time to move my dollars, buy into something that's going to go up in value, even if it means $1 million over asking in these houses. There's a meme going around about housing where people are calling up and saying, I don't want to see it. I don't need an inspection. I'll take it. Now, many of you may have bought a house before, so you understand the process. You find a seller. You say, I want to check it out. You bring out an inspector. They go through it. Maybe you got your mortgage company. They say, here's what we need. Here's what we expect. We want insurance. We don't want to just go in. We want an appraisal. It's a complicated process. It could take up to 45 days. Today, what's happening? Rich people are not hesitating to buy sight unseen. I tell you, man, some of these neighborhoods in the D.C. area, like outside the D.C. area where people are fleeing to, it's nuts. A week ago, I was looking at property in eastern West Virginia, in the eastern part of West Virginia. There was a 10-acre property, moderately priced. Within 5 days, it was gone. 5 days. And I called the agent and I said, I thought you were going to check it out for me, because we're expanding the business and we're looking for space where we could do stuff. And he was like, it's sold. It's gone. It's off the market. So we don't exactly know what happened. Maybe it didn't sold, but he's like, probably sold. I mean, you got to understand, man, if the dollar's on fire, people aren't going to want to be sitting on them. And it doesn't matter if the property is good or bad. It doesn't matter if the house is leaky or water damaged. Just get your money into something else now. And they know it. You don't. Regular people don't. I guess you have an advantage watching videos like mine. Now there's some, let's go through some of these stories and let's go to the bad news. Business Insider reported this September 24th, 2020. The U.S. is facing a dollar collapse by the end of 2021 and an over 50% chance of a double dip recession, economist Stephen Roach says. Remember the date, September 24th, 2020. They say, the U.S. has seen economic output rise briefly and then fall in 8 of the past 11 business cycle recoveries. Grim second quarter data cannot be dismissed, he said, pointing out that the current account deficit in the United States, which is the broadest measure of our international imbalance with the rest of the world, suffered a record deterioration. Roach last predicted a crash in the dollar index in June, when it was trading at about 96. He said at the time that it would collapse 35% against other major currencies within the next year or two. The, quote, seemingly crazed idea the U.S. dollar will collapse against other major currencies in the post-pandemic global economy is not so crazy anymore, the economist Stephen Roach told CNBC's Trading Nation on Wednesday. Roach, a former chairman of Morgan Stanley Asia, also said he sees a more than 50% probability of a double dip recession in the U.S. Double dip? Quote, it's certainly something that happens more often than not. He based that prediction on historical evidence. Roach last predicted a dollar crash in June, saying it would collapse 35%. We read that. He said on Wednesday that he expected the collapse to happen by the end of 2021, but he did not say by how much. A few months later, Stephen Roach wrote this for Bloomberg. The dollar's crash is only just beginning. January 25th, 2021, only a few months ago. He writes, after an initial spike higher, the dollar has been falling steadily since the COVID-19 pandemic took hold in the U.S. last March. It is down about 10% to 12% relative to America's major trading partners, dropping to its weakest levels since early 2018, as measured by several of the broad dollar indexes. There is more to come. Based on wildly unpopular forecast that it made in June of a 35% decline in value by the end of 2021, we are only in the third inning of a 9-inning baseball game. If that forecast comes to pass, it will provide an important exclamation point on the first year in office for America's 46th president, Joe Biden. I want to point something out, too. What did we see? November 2020, Bitcoin from about $13,000, $11,000 to $13,000 to $65,000 per Bitcoin. Now, a lot of people who didn't understand what was happening and had only a few $100s bought into Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is good to have, but I won't tell you what to do with it because these people ended up losing money. They were scammed, in my opinion. The wealthy elites bought up as much as they could. Then, once the price started skyrocketing because everybody jumped in the gold rush, we see news reports from China. Oh, they're going to ban it. We see Elon Musk. Oh, we're not going to take it. Square says, oh, we're done with Bitcoin. And the price plummets. It scared the poor into selling off their coin. The rich people bought it back up. And the price jumped right back up to like 42. And it's bouncing between 42 and 35. People are buying in, buying out. Money is moving quick. And nobody wants to have US dollars right now. Think about it this way. If 35K can get you a Bitcoin today, by the end of the year, it's going to be 100K per Bitcoin. Now, Max Kaiser says 221K. I don't know for sure. Some people jokingly say that GameStop or AMC is the new gold. Full disclosure, I do have a bunch of different stocks from the meme stocks. I don't have any GameStop. I do have some AMC, though. Full disclosure. Not telling you what to buy, though. Let's read more. They say the dollar is trading at its lowest level since 2018. He says there are 3 main reasons why you argue the dollar would fall. 1, a sharp widening in the U.S. current account deficit. 2, the rise of the euro. And 3, a Federal Reserve that would do little in response to any weakness in the greenback. On each of these counts, I have greater conviction on the weak dollar call today than I did 6 months ago. Consider the following. The current account. As expected, the current account deficit has deteriorated further, widening by 1.2% to 3.3% of gross domestic product in the second quarter of 2020, and by an additional 0.1% to 3.4% in the third quarter. The shift in the second quarter was the largest erosion on record, and it is the current level the deficit is at its worst since the end of 2008. At work is a deterioration in domestic saving, driven by explosive COVID-related increases in the federal budget deficit. When a nation is lacking in savings and wants to invest and grow, it must import surplus savings from abroad to square the circle, running current account deficits in order to attract the foreign capital. Unsurprisingly, the identities have held. The net domestic savings rate, which fell below zero in the second and third quarters for the first time in a decade. The 3.8 percentage points decline in the net domestic rate to negative 0.9 in the second quarter from a positive 2.9 rate in the first quarter was also the largest quarterly decline on record. Now, I don't understand a lot of this. I got to be honest. A lot of numbers, a lot of things I've never heard of before. So I'll read it, but it sounds like to me you can see the context for what it is. The largest quarterly decline on record. The second quarter plunge in domestic savings was largely an outgrowth of the $2.2 trillion CARES Act. I think it's fairly simple. Joe Biden spending money like crazy, money we don't have with a product not being produced, is causing serious problems for the value of the dollar, which, as most of us already know, when you mass print money, you're tanking the buck. And that means for all you people who have a savings, you got $1,000 in your savings account. Okay, well, good for you. By the end of the year, you'll be able to buy $500, $600 worth of groceries with it, right? Because the value is going down. Milk is going to go up. It already is. Chicken shortages mean not only is chicken going to be driven up by inflation, but the shortages will cause major price increases. Like I showed you with that photo from the barbecue joint. The price of beef doubled. And that was before the cyber attack on the meat processing plant. I can only imagine what's going to happen to the price of meat now. It is crazy, right? We were just hearing these reports saying that we got to stop our beef consumption. And the media saying, you got to eat the bugs. Eat the cicadas, they say. I say don't eat bugs from the ground. They could have parasites. Sure. Properly farmed insects. I think it's fine. And they do say that cicadas taste like shrimp. They're pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised. Bugs don't taste all that bad. Of the bugs I've had, I don't really have much to say other than stuff tends to taste very similarly. I did have cricket recently. It's got like a bitter, kind of pungent. I don't know how to describe it. I wouldn't call it bad. It's like nutty, They want you to eat the bugs. Now, I'll do what I got to do to survive. If I have to eat bugs, look, if there's no meat, you'll eat what you can get. We're going to see cricket burger. We're going to see lab-grown meat. Ain't going to be no beef. They go to mention there's more. He says the combined COVID relief packages total $5 trillion. Now, this was in January. Crank that up to $11 trillion, baby. 24% of the 2020 GDP. Oh, no. So does that mean, maybe I'm wrong, if the current COVID relief package is at $11 trillion, that's around 50% of last year's GDP? You know what was really crazy to me is that the U.S. debt clock says right now the average family has $36K in savings, and in 4 years they'll have $500,000 in savings. How will they have $500,000 in savings? Oh, hyperinflation. $500,000 today sounds like a lot. $500,000 in 2025 sounds like it'll buy you a cup of coffee and a slice of pizza. That's freaky stuff. He goes on to mention that the euro, they say the pushback on my negative dollar call was about TINA. There is no alternative. In a follow-up commentary, I countered that claim, attempting to make the positive case for the Chinese renminbi and the euro, while also giving a nod to precious metals and even cryptocurrencies. He mentions the euro is rising. The Eurozone's shared currency has gotten stronger since early 2020. Where we fall, they rise. Man, certainly feels like a great reset, doesn't it? Gas shortages, beef shortages, meat shortages, telling people to eat cicadas. People then actually do go out and eat cicadas. Currency around the world is starting to normalize in value. Sounds like some kind of great reset of global capitalism. I wonder about that, huh? The U.S. dollar is tanking, but the euro is rising, so it's coming closer to like a 1-to-1 ratio. Interesting how that works. He says, lastly, the Federal Reserve. When current account deficits are under pressure, the central bank can usually be counted on to come to the rescue by tightening monetary policy. That most assuredly is not the case with today's Fed. By adopting a new average inflation targeting regime in August, the Fed has sent a strong signal that it will move later rather than sooner to counter any surge in inflation rates. Nor can so-called modern monetary theory ride to the rescue of the dollar. Yes, debt and deficits may not be consequential in a low inflation, low interest rate climate, hardly a brilliant theoretical breakthrough, but saving, or the lack thereof, still matters. With the U.S. increasingly reliant on foreign capital to compensate for its growing shortfall of domestic savings, and with the Fed's open-ended quantitative easing measures creating a massive overhang of excess liquidity, the case for a sharp further weakening of the dollar looks more compelling than ever. Well, there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Sheets to accept Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies this summer. Those that held on to your crypto, hey, that's good news. I think this will cause the price of crypto to go way, way up. This was reported over the weekend. This is a big gas station chain. We got a bunch by us. They make sandwiches, they do coffee, they do gas. Now you'll be able to spend, I think, Dogecoin, actually, which is really interesting. Not just Bitcoin. Yeah, check it out. The convenience store chain will accept Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Litecoin, Ether, Ethereum. I guess it is called Ether, and other forms of cryptocurrency starting this summer. Interestingly, I think Dogecoin, I'm a bit bullish on Dogecoin now. The reason is it's got a 2% inflation rate, so I'm told, I could be wrong, but they were like, it's inflationary, which means it's good for cash. You don't want to hold on to it. You can use it for quick exchanges. Bitcoin is gold. So we have literally now created a system where we have digital cash and digital gold. I like the idea. All in all, what can we say? I hope you're paying attention. I wish everybody was paying attention, but I've got family members who aren't paying attention. They don't know. They don't care. Oh, it's fine. Now they're sitting here wondering why everything's getting so bad. Oh, maybe you should watch my videos, guys. Maybe if you watched them, you'd have been better prepared for this before it hit. The cyber attack on the meat plant won't be the last. There was an insurance company that got hit recently. We don't hear about these things. They try to keep them under wraps. But this is huge. Don't be surprised if you go to the market and there's no meat. Well, I got good news for everybody. You ever see that meme where like a hurricane hits and all of the meat is gone, but the vegan section is still there? You can always count on the vegan section to have vegan options for you. For me, I don't care. I like vegan food. Heck, I'd eat bugs. Food is food to me. Make it taste good and I'm happy. Slap a little garlic and ginger sauce on top. I'm happy as can be. Many of you might not be happy with the vegan options, but when it comes down to it, you'll be happy to get what you get. So start eating them tofurkey burgers because you better get used to them. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tonight at 8 p.m. at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. It's a live show. Come hang out, and we'll see you all then.